The perfect lie, when our dream life became a nightmare. I thought I knew my husband. Turns out, I was living with a complete stranger for 8 years. A stranger who gambled away our children's college funds while I smiled for the camera, telling our million followers how blessed we were. You know those Instagram couples? The ones with the pristine kitchen islands, matching coffee mugs, and captions about finding your person? That was us. Dan and Tara Morrison. The perfect American family. 2 beautiful kids, a house in suburbia that looked like it came straight out of a magazine, and a social media empire built on the lie that love conquers all. But here's what they don't show you in the highlight reel. What happens when the cameras stop rolling and you're left staring at bank statements that make your stomach drop to your knees. It started like any other Tuesday morning. I was setting up for our weekly morning routine video, arranging the fresh flowers I'd bought specifically for the shot, when I noticed Dan acting different. He was fidgeting with his phone, that nervous energy I'd started noticing more and more lately. "Babe, you ready?" I called out, adjusting the ring light for the 3rd time. "We need to get this posted before 10 if we want to hit the algorithm's sweet spot." That's how we talked back then. Everything was about engagement rates, optimal posting times, brand partnerships. Our entire life had become content. Even our fights were scheduled around our posting calendar. Dan walked into the kitchen, but something was off. His smile looked practiced, forced, like he was putting on a mask I'd never noticed before. "Actually, Tara, can we skip the video today?" I froze. In 3 years of consistent posting, Dan had never suggested skipping content. Never. Our brand was built on consistency, on showing up every single day with our perfect little life. Skip it? Dan, we have the partnership with coffee company launching next week. We can't just. I know. He ran his hands through his hair, messing up the style I'd helped him perfect for the camera. I have a headache. Looking back, that should have been my first red flag. Dan never got headaches. Dan never got sick. Dan was the one who insisted we film even when I had the flu, claiming our audience needed that authentic, real-life content. But I was so focused on maintaining our image, I just shrugged it off. Okay, we'll do it later. But we really can't miss today. The algorithm gods demand consistency. I laughed when I said it, but Dan didn't laugh back. He just nodded and disappeared into his office. That office. God, I should have paid more attention to what was happening behind that closed door. You see, when you're building a brand around your relationship, you start to lose track of where the performance ends and reality begins. We'd been playing the perfect couple for so long, I genuinely believed we were perfect. Dan was my business partner, my best friend, my co-star in this beautiful life we'd created. Except it was all falling apart, and I was the only one who didn't know it. The first real crack in our facade came 2 weeks later. I was reviewing our analytics, trying to figure out why our engagement was dropping, when I decided to check our joint account to see if we had enough for the ring light upgrade I'd been wanting. The balance made me blink hard, thinking I'd misread it. Then I refreshed the page. Then I called the bank. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Morrison, but your account balance is correct. You currently have $347.62 in your checking account." $347. We'd had over $50,000 in that account just 3 months ago. $50,000 we'd earned from brand partnerships, affiliate marketing, and sponsored posts about our perfect little life. My hands started shaking. Actually shaking, like in those movies where the character gets devastating news. I'd always thought that was dramatic, but turns out your body really does betray you when your world starts crumbling. There must be some mistake, I told the bank representative, even though I could see the transaction history on my screen. Withdrawal after withdrawal, all from something called Golden Gate Gaming. "Ma'am, I'm showing multiple transactions to various gaming platforms over the past 3 months. The largest was $18,000 on March 15th. March 15th. That was the day we celebrated our brand, hitting 1 million followers. The day Dan surprised me with champagne and told me he was so proud of what we'd built together. The day I posted that caption about how grateful I was to have a partner who supported my dreams. While I was writing about gratitude and partnership, He was betting away our children's future. I sat in our perfect kitchen, surrounded by the props of our perfect life, and felt something inside me break. Not crack. Break. Like a glass hitting concrete. But here's the thing about being a content creator. You learn to compartmentalize. You learn to smile when you want to scream, to perform happiness when you're dying inside. So when Dan walked in from his office, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I watched him. Really watched him for the first time in years. The way his hands trembled slightly when he thought I wasn't looking. How he'd gotten thin, not in a healthy way, but in that hollowed-out way that comes from stress eating at you from the inside. The dark circles under his eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide anymore. How long had he been carrying the secret? How long had I been so focused on our online image that I'd missed my own husband falling apart? That night, after we'd posted our usual date night at home content, complete with candlelit dinner and heartfelt captions about choosing each other every day, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my throat all day. Dan, what's Golden Gate Gaming? The fork fell from his hand. Literally fell, clattering against the plate in a way that seemed impossibly loud in our suddenly silent kitchen. What? His voice came out strangled, higher than normal. Golden Gate Gaming. There are charges. Lots of charges. From our joint account. I watched his face cycle through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion, panic, anger, resignation. It was like seeing someone's soul stripped bare in real time. Tara, I can explain. $18,000, Dan. In one day. On the day we celebrated hitting 1 million followers. He stood up so fast his chair knocked backward. Started pacing around our kitchen island, the same island where we'd filmed hundreds of videos about our perfect marriage. It's not what you think. What I think. My voice was rising, and I couldn't stop it. What I think is that while I was posting about how grateful I was for my supportive husband, that husband was gambling away our savings. It's not gambling, it's investing. Investing. I laughed, and it came out sharp and bitter. Dan, I looked it up. Golden Gate Gaming is an online casino. You've been playing online poker. For months. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear our neighbor's dog barking, the hum of our ring lights that were still set up in the living room, ready for tomorrow's content. All the sounds of normal life continuing while mine imploded. How much? I whispered. Tara. How much, Dan? He sank into the chair across from me, suddenly looking older than his 32 years. I don't know. I stopped keeping track. You stopped keeping track of how much of our money you gambled away? It wasn't supposed to be like this. His voice was barely audible. I started small. Just 50 here and there. I was actually winning at first. I thought I could make us more money, surprise you with how much I'd grown our savings. I stared at this man I'd shared a bed with for 8 years, this man who'd helped me build our brand from nothing, this man I'd trusted with everything. And I realized I didn't know him at all. The kids' college funds? He couldn't look at me. That was answer enough. The emergency fund? Still couldn't look at me. Dan, look at me. My voice was steady now, deadly calm. Look at me and tell me we have something left. When his eyes finally met mine, they were wet with tears I'd never seen before. I thought I could win it back. I was so close, Tara. So many times I was so close to breaking even. That's not how gambling works, Dan. That's not how any of this works. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here we were, the couple who preached about communication, honesty, and partnership, and my husband had been living a double life for months. How long? I asked. What? How long have you been lying to me? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, in a voice so small I had to strain to hear it, since last summer, when we'd renewed our vows on our 5-year anniversary, when we'd posted that viral video about growing stronger together, when I'd worn my grandmother's pearls and cried Real tears talking about how Dan was my person, my forever. He'd already been lying to me then, already been stealing from us, already been living this secret life while I built our public one. I need to see everything, I said. Tara. Everything, Dan. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts. All of it.
Now.
What I discovered over the next 3 hours destroyed every assumption I'd had about our life. Not just the gambling, though that was devastating enough. Dan had open credit cards I didn't know about. He'd borrowed against his life insurance policy. He'd even taken out a loan using our house as collateral. We weren't just broke. We were in debt. Serious, life-altering debt. $130,000, I said, staring at the final tally I'd written on our pretty notepad, the one I used for planning our content calendar. We owe $130,000. Dan was crying now, openly sobbing in a way that should have made me feel sorry for him. But I was beyond sorry. I was beyond angry. I was in a place I'd never been before, a cold, clear space where I could see everything with brutal honesty. The house. We have maybe 3 months before they start foreclosure proceedings. 3 months. We had 3 months before our perfect little life completely collapsed. The kids don't know anything? God, no. Tara, the kids can't know about this. They're going to know when we have to sell the house, Dan. They're going to know when we can't afford Emma's dance classes or Jake's soccer camp. I watched him flinch at each reality I laid out. But I wasn't done. They're going to know when Mommy and Daddy can't afford to keep pretending everything is perfect for the internet. That's when it hit me. Our brand, our livelihood, everything we'd built, it was all based on a lie. How do you sell the perfect family when your family is broken? How do you promote relationship goals when your relationship is built on deception? We have to tell our audience, I said.
What? No. Tara, no.
We can figure this out. I can get help, go to counseling. I can fix this. Fix this? Dan, you've destroyed everything we worked for. Everything. Please. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. Please, Tara. If we tell them, it's over. Our sponsors will drop us. Our brand will be destroyed. We'll lose everything. We've already lost everything. I stood up, pacing now myself. Don't you get it? There is no everything left to lose. But even as I said it, I knew he was right about one thing. Our brand was built on aspiration. People followed us because they wanted what we had, or what they thought we had. They wanted the perfect marriage, the beautiful home, the happy family. They didn't want the reality. They didn't want to see the husband who gambled away the children's college funds while his wife smiled for the camera. They didn't want to see the perfect kitchen where we'd screamed at each other until our throats were raw. What if? I started, then stopped. What if we could spin this? What do you mean? I mean, what if we tell our story? Not all of it, but what if we talk about overcoming challenges? About how even perfect couples face problems? I was grasping at straws, trying to find a way to salvage something from the wreckage. Because the truth was, I was terrified. Our entire income came from our brand. Without it, we were just another family drowning in debt with no way out. You think people would still follow us if they knew the truth? I think people might respect us more for being honest about struggling. It was a nice thought, but deep down I knew better. People don't follow perfect couples to watch them fall apart. They follow them to believe that perfect love exists, that happy endings are possible, that if they just try hard enough, they too can have what we had. Except we never had it. It was all performance, all carefully curated content designed to sell a fantasy. I need time to think, I said finally. How much time? I don't know. Maybe a few days. Maybe longer. What do we do about content? We're supposed to post the weekly family breakfast tomorrow. The weekly family breakfast. Where we'd sit around our kitchen table, talking about our week, our goals, our gratitude. Where the kids would say cute things and Dan would make me laugh, and everyone would comment about how lucky we were to have each other. I can't do it, Dan. I can't sit there and pretend everything is fine when everything is falling apart. So what do we tell people? Nothing. We say nothing until I figure out what we're going to do. That night, I slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. Not because Dan asked me to, but because I couldn't bear to lie next to him, knowing what I knew. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the times over the past few months when things had felt off. The times Dan had been distant during our videos. The way he'd started suggesting we eat out more often instead of cooking at home. The mysterious phone calls he'd taken in his office. All the signs had been there. I'd just been too busy performing happiness to notice my actual happiness slipping away. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from our brand manager. Tara, where's the family breakfast video? Your audience is asking where you are. This isn't like you. Our audience. God, our audience. 1 million people who followed our every move, who commented on our posts about how goals we were, how they wanted what we had. 1 million people who had no idea they were watching a carefully orchestrated lie. I called Dan into the guest room.
We need to post something, I said.
Okay. The breakfast video?
No.
Something else. Something real. What do you mean real? I mean, we tell them we're going through a rough patch. We don't have to give details, but we tell them we're taking a break from regular posting while we work through some personal stuff. Dan's face went white. Tara, if we do that, the speculation will be insane. People will assume we're getting divorced. Our sponsors are going to drop us anyway when they find out we can't afford to buy the products we're supposed to be promoting. It was true. Half our content involved showcasing products in our beautiful home, wearing expensive clothes, taking family trips we could no longer afford. How long could we keep up the facade when we had no money to maintain it? What if we just take a hiatus? Don't explain anything. Just say we're taking some family time. Dan, people aren't stupid. They'll know something is wrong. Maybe they'll think you're pregnant again. Or that we're planning some big announcement. I stared at him, amazed by his ability to keep thinking about our image even as our life crumbled around us. Is that really what you're worried about right now? What people will think? It's our livelihood, Tara. It's how we pay for everything. We're not paying for anything. We can't even pay our mortgage. The conversation went in circles like that for hours. Dan wanted to keep pretending, keep posting, keep selling the dream until we could figure out how to make it real again. I wanted to come clean, or at least partially clean, and hope our audience would support us through the hard times. But I knew, deep down, that neither option would work. Our brand was built on perfection, and perfection doesn't recover from this kind of revelation. So I made a decision that would change everything. I went live. Not on our joint account, on my personal Instagram, the one I rarely used anymore. I set up my phone in the guest room, sat on the bed in my pajamas with no makeup, and I started talking. Hi everyone. This is really hard for me to say, but I need to be honest with you all. The viewers started pouring in immediately. Our audience was trained to watch everything we posted, and an unscheduled live video from me, looking like this, was unprecedented. Dan doesn't know I'm doing this live. He's going to be really upset with me, but I can't keep pretending anymore. The comments were flying by too fast to read, but I could see the words. What's wrong? Where's Dan? Are you okay? Is everything all right? The truth is, we're not okay. We haven't been okay for a while, and I've been too scared to tell you because I thought it would ruin everything we've built together. My voice was shaking. I could see the viewer count climbing, 500, 800, 1,200. Word was spreading fast that something was happening. For the past year, maybe longer, he's been struggling with gambling. Online poker, mostly. And he's lost everything. The comments exploded. Heart emojis mixed with shocked faces, mixed with expressions of support and disbelief. We're broke. Completely broke. Actually, we're worse than broke. We're in debt. Serious debt. The house we've filmed in, the life we've shown you, it's all about to disappear. I could hear Dan's footsteps on the stairs. He was coming up to check on me, probably wondering why he could hear my voice through the guest room door. I know this isn't what you followed us for. I know you followed us because you wanted to see the perfect family, the perfect marriage, the perfect life. But it was never perfect. It was never real. The door opened behind me. I didn't turn around, but I could see Dan's reflection in my phone screen, his face horrified as he realized what I was doing. The fight we're having right now, this is real. The fear I'm feeling about losing our home, this is real. The betrayal, the anger, the feeling like I don't know the person I've been married to for 8 years, this is real. Tara. Dan's voice was barely a whisper. Tara, what are you doing? I finally turned to look at him. I'm telling the truth. You can't do this. Please. Think about the kids. Think about our family. I am thinking about our family. I'm thinking about how we can't keep living this lie. I turned back to the phone. The viewer count was over 3,000 now and climbing. I don't know what happens next, I said to the camera. I don't know if we'll stay together. I don't know if we'll keep our house. I don't know if we'll keep making content. I just know I couldn't pretend for one more day that everything was fine when everything was falling apart. Dan was pleading with me now, begging me to end the live stream, telling me I was destroying everything. But everything was already destroyed. I was just finally admitting it. If you've been following us because you wanted relationship goals, I'm sorry. We don't have those. If you've been following us because you wanted to see a perfect family, I'm sorry. We're not perfect. We're just people, and people mess up, and sometimes they mess up so badly that there's no going back. I could see Dan had his phone out, probably trying to contact our brand manager, our sponsors, anyone who could help him control the damage I was doing. But I was done with damage control. I was done with pretending. I was done with smiling for the camera while my world fell apart behind the scenes. I know a lot of you are going to unfollow us after this. I know our sponsors are probably watching this right now, figuring out how to distance themselves from us. I know this is probably the end of everything we've built. The tears came then, real tears, not the carefully timed emotional moments I'd perfected for our content. But I'd rather have nothing real than everything fake. I'd rather be broke and honest than rich and living a lie. I looked at Dan one more time. He was crying too, but not the kind of tears that come from relief or catharsis. These were tears of panic, of watching everything he thought mattered slip away. I'm going to end this now, I said to the camera. I don't know when we'll post again, or if we'll post again. I don't know what our life looks like without the cameras and the content and the constant performance. I paused, looking at all the comments flying by. Most of them were supportive, surprisingly. People saying they appreciated my honesty, that they'd been struggling too, that they were grateful to see someone being real for once. But I guess we're about to find out who we really are when nobody's watching. I ended the live stream and set down my phone. Dan and I stared at each other across the guest room. Two people who'd built their entire lives around a shared performance, now left with nothing but the truth. That was either the stupidest thing I've ever done, I said, or the smartest. It was the stupidest, Dan said immediately. Tara, do you realize what you just did? You destroyed us. You destroyed everything.
No, Dan.
You destroyed everything. I just stopped pretending it was still intact. What happened next was beyond anything I could have predicted. The live stream was screen recorded by dozens of viewers and posted everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube. Within hours, #PerfectLieChallenge was trending, with people sharing their own stories about the gap between their social media image and their reality. Our story became bigger than us. It became a conversation about authenticity online, about the pressure to perform perfection, about the dark side of influencer culture. Some people called me brave. Others called me manipulative, saying I was just creating drama for attention. Most people seemed to appreciate the honesty, even if they were shocked by the revelation. But you know what surprised me most? The sponsors. Instead of all dropping us immediately, 3 of them reached out wanting to work with us on a different kind of content. Real content. Content about recovery, about rebuilding, about what happens after the perfect life falls apart. People are tired of perfection, our brand manager told us in an emergency call that evening. They want authenticity. They want to see real people dealing with real problems. It felt surreal. I'd been so afraid that honesty would end our career, but it seemed like honesty might actually save it. Of course, it wasn't that simple. We did lose sponsors. We did lose followers. About 200,000 people unfollowed us in the first week after my live stream. Our engagement plummeted. Several brands explicitly stated they couldn't work with us anymore because we no longer represented the aspirational lifestyle their customers wanted. But something else happened too. The followers who stayed became more engaged than ever. They started sharing their own stories in our comments. They started talking about their struggles with money, with addiction, with marriage, with the pressure to appear perfect online. Our content changed completely. Instead of morning routines and date nights, we started posting about Dan's recovery process. Instead of home decor and fashion hauls, I started sharing resources for financial counseling and addiction support. Instead of performing a perfect marriage, we started documenting the hard work of rebuilding a broken one. It wasn't easy. God, it wasn't easy. Dan had to go to counseling, both for his gambling addiction and for our marriage. We had to sell our house and move into a small apartment. The kids had to change schools. We had to completely rebuild our relationship with money, with each other, and with our audience. But for the first time in years, when I looked in the mirror, I recognized the person looking back at me. The woman in the mirror wasn't perfect. She had dark circles from sleepless nights, worrying about money. She had gray hairs she couldn't afford to color anymore. She wore the same 3 outfits in rotation because she couldn't afford new clothes. But she was real.
She was honest.
She was dealing with her problems instead of hiding from them. 6 months after that live stream, Dan hit 6 months of recovery. We celebrated quietly, just the two of us, in our tiny apartment kitchen. No cameras, no content, no audience. Do you regret it? He asked me. Going live that day? I thought about it.
Really thought about it.
We'd lost our dream house, our perfect image, most of our income. Our kids had to adjust to a completely different life. Our families had to deal with the public humiliation of our very private problems being broadcast to strangers. But we'd also gained something I hadn't realized we'd lost. We'd gained each other back.
No, I said.
I don't regret it. Do you? I regret gambling away our savings. I regret lying to you for months. I regret putting you in a position where you felt like you had to choose between your integrity and our livelihood. He paused, looking out the window of our modest apartment at the view of the parking lot that had replaced our view of the manicured lawn. But I don't regret that you chose integrity. A year later, we're still rebuilding. Our follower count has stabilized around 400,000, smaller than before, but more authentic. We make less money, but we also spend less money. We live in a smaller space, but we actually live in it instead of just using it as a backdrop. Dan still goes to meetings twice a week. I still have trust issues that we're working through in counseling. We still have debt that will take years to pay off. We're still figuring out how to parent our kids through the aftermath of our very public breakdown. But we're doing it together. Really together, not performing for the camera together. Last week, a woman messaged me saying that watching our story helped her realize her own relationship was built on lies. She left her husband who'd been hiding his own addiction, and she thanked me for showing her that she didn't have to keep pretending everything was fine. That message meant more to me than any brand partnership we'd ever landed. Because here's what I learned. There's a difference between the life you post and the life you live. And when those two things get too far apart, something has to give. I chose to give up the perfect post so I could have an imperfect but real life. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And the best decision I've ever made. You know what's funny? People still ask us for relationship advice. Not because we're perfect, but because we survived imperfection. They want to know how we're rebuilding trust, how we're managing money now, how we're staying together when everything fell apart. And I tell them the truth. Some days are really hard. Some days we barely like each other, let alone love each other. Some days the temptation to go back to pretending everything is fine is overwhelming. But we keep showing up. We keep having the difficult conversations. We keep choosing honesty over harmony, truth over comfort. We keep choosing reality over the perfect lie. The perfect family we used to portray online never existed. But the imperfect family we're building now, that's real. That's ours. That's worth fighting for. And if our story helps even one person choose authenticity over perfection, then maybe all the pain was worth it. What about you? Is there a gap between the life you're showing the world and the life you're actually living? Share your story in the comments, the real one, not the perfect one. And hey, if you're still here after all of this mess, hit that subscribe button. We're not perfect, but we're real, and apparently that's worth something after all.